Yo everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood podcaster Zen here. And welcome to the third episode of Unmasked. And in this episode, I'd like to share with you a project that I cooked up during the summer with a couple of buddies of mine, a project called Tempusland. This is a project dedicated to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of HOLOSTARS HQ Tempest and the 6 month anniversary of Vanguard. But before we can get onto that, I'd just like to make an announcement that on the Unmasked Twitter page, you can now find a document that details how you can become a part of this podcast, whether that's playing roles such as being an editor, or timestamping, or making transcripts, or if you want to make a guest appearance and have an interview on an episode, along with details about shoutouts. I'd also like to mention that in the pre-pilot, I talked about how I would be coming out with an episode from 1 to 2 weeks. However, I think that I want to spend more time improving the quality of the videos and not feel like I need to trap myself with always having to pump out a video every 1 to 2 weeks if I know that I can deliver the same kind of content but in a much greater quality, and that's what you guys deserve. So if it takes a month or so before the next episode comes out, I hope that I will do my best to make sure that it's worth the wait. And it's also going to be working out better with me, especially because I'm a college student and I have exams and things to study for, and I'm also busy with a lot of other things in my personal life. So I think that this type of plan would definitely work out. So if you're unfamiliar with HOLOSTARS English or HoloLive and the concept of VTubers in general, then I recommend you to go watch my Poster Boy of Degeneracy video where I go into detail about this online culture. There should be a link to it in the top right corner, and if not, I'll add it to the description down below. So I'll give you 5 seconds before we continue talking about Tempusland. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So in April, I am following this Tempest fan project Twitter, where it's a Twitter page dedicated towards organizing, helping, and to construct fan projects to celebrate things like anniversaries or birthdays for HOLOSTARS English. And I got a notification on my phone saying that there was this new project that the Guild Hall Discord server was hosting their own project to celebrate the anniversaries of the boys. And so I saw that it was a Minecraft project, and I was really excited because it's a game that I hold near and dear to my heart. I've been playing Minecraft for over 10 years, and I thought, it's good to bring experience and my knowledge and whatever skills that I had from that experience into this community here. And so they wanted to make a amusement park where all of the boys have an area dedicated to them. I clicked on the document that they linked, and I was really excited about all of the details about what they've already had so far, what they planned, and this really seemed like a very promising project. So I go on Discord and I join the Guildhall Discord server, and I scroll down to see that they have a Minecraft server, and there was a part of me that scratched my head thinking, I think I actually went down this tab before, and I think that this was previously a survival server, but I think that the kind of activity, the amount of players that used to be on their server sort of dwindled. And so I get the IP of the server, and I was a little bit confused because I thought that it would spawn on this near the amusement park, but I was spawned in an area where I remember seeing a mile wide cornfield, hills pointing heavenward, houses of little village. And I really was confused, but now that I look back on it, I just know it now that that's really the true spawn of the Guildhall Minecraft server, where this is where a lot of history where I still don't know what really went on in there, besides just, a couple of friends hanging out. When I joined the server, I was really surprised that I got to see a friend of mine who, for sakes of privacy, I'll name this friend of mine Moon. And so I saw Moon there, and I didn't know that Moon played Minecraft. I think I had some idea that she was a gamer, but I just really didn't expect to see someone that that I knew to be a part of this project. And so it was Moon and her friend that were on the server, and Moon asked me if I wanted to be a gatherer or a builder. I said that because I was kind of confused that I would just be a gatherer and then I would be a builder later on. And so I also asked if she could teleport me to the amusement park. So I did, and then I was pretty surprised by what they've had so far, considering when the project started. I remember seeing the planetarium. I think that there weren't any maps inside of there still. I think there were just a couple of sea lanterns. Because the way that the planetarium would work was that they would be working on a map. They would have an empty map, and then whatever land that was covered by that map, they would cover that entire sector with a black block, whether it be black terracotta or black concrete, and they would individually add the stars into there, and they would take that map that has that sky art, the night sky art, and they would place it inside of glowing item frames so that it has that kind of like light effect that it really illuminates the room to a degree. And so, and that was in the progress of being made in its early beginning phase. And then there was also, I believe, a mini game that's a part of Haka's area called Don't Break the Block, which is your classic kind of like spleef game where you're up against multiple players and you're trying to destroy the floor beneath them until you're the last person standing. Progress was moving kind of fast. About more than a week later, I noticed that there was a Coliseum in Axel's area. There was the Maki Rune Factory. There was more progress within the lore library. And I think there was some work done in the Biddles area. I was worried about whether or not that I'd find my place in this project in time, like figuring out which area that I wanted to build in and what I would build. And I got asked who my Oshi was, simply, and I said it was Altare. And I was also asked if I wanted to be a part of a project that Moon was currently working on, which was the underwater viewing deck. Moon kind of described it as an aquarium, I believe, so I kind of got confused on exactly what the vision was there initially. But the idea was just basically based off of the fact that the concert stage in Altair's area was next to the ocean, so they thought that it would be nice if we got a little staircase, a little tunnel down there just to see a view of dolphins, fish, coral, whatever they wanted to see. It was initially just really bare. There's a lot of gravel, dirt, sand, nothing really amusing, really. So we just needed to spice that up. I started talking with Moon about different designs, and I also started doing my own research into different aquariums, such as the George Aquarium, the Aquarium of the Pacific, gathering all of these photos, looking at different videos, And because I was really basing this off of the idea that we would be working on an aquarium, I didn't know how much time I really wanted to dedicate time to for this project, because I knew that there was other people who were working on multiple different builds. But once I got started on the underwater viewing deck portion, which meant that I added towers of kelp, clusters of coral. I added some fish, which kind of just swam away. I was hoping that they would stay in like the general area, but they went on their own journey. I added also some jellyfish, and it made for a really vibrant area, just welcoming the visitors into what it would then continue to make the entrance of the aquarium. And I was working on a blueprint in another Minecraft world for the entrance, which included a information desk, ATM machine area, the entrance to the bathrooms, and the entrance to the gift shop, along with two entrances into the museum, one branching out to the left and one branching out to the right. But that was just the outline of the entrance, and all of the other details were yet to be determined. And I based the floor off of the floor of a lobby of a resort in the Bahamas called Atlantis, which was a place that I went on vacation with my family when I was younger. And while I was filling out the floor, I had the idea of just making this giant trench. It was one of those moments where it was just an improvised idea on the spot, and I really just ignored things like time constraints or whatnot, or just trying to plan ahead, and just really take the time to just add a detail. And I'm glad that I did, because it really spices up the lobby. For realism, I added an information deck, which really serves no other purpose besides being a decoration. The same could be said for the ATM machines. So I was working on the walls, and I was working on the right side first, where I was gonna add the gift shop. And because there was a lot of space, but still considering that there was the right branch part where I needed to like create that break between the gift shop and the rest of the aquarium, I still wanted to make this gift shop kind of special. So I played around with the size of the entrance with the gift shop. I really just took a guess on how big I wanted to make it. Along with that, I also created the basic shapes of the entrances to the bathrooms. And considering how big I wanted to make the area for the ATM machine just based off of the tutorial that I looked up. And the actual height of itself was something where I also just took a guess of how high the aquarium would be. That made a couple of design errors in the long run, but nothing that anyone has ever pointed out besides myself yet. When you're working on a underwater project like this and you want to drain out the water, what some people like Philza do is they cover the entire area with sand, and then they get rid of the sand. And because I had access to commands, I was going to use the /fill command, which, if you don't know, if you specify like you want a certain area to be filled with blocks, you can use a command to do so. But if you don't use it wisely, it can destroy part of your build. So that was what I was really worried about. With a block like sand, where it has a little animation and has physics behind it, where it falls, there's gravity acting on it. I was also a bit worried because it could entirely lag me out of the server. And when I pulled the command, yeah, there was definitely a huge lag spike, but luckily I didn't get isekai'd out of the server. It was also a pain in the side to get all of that sand out of the lobby, but it was really satisfying to see all of the water drained. I was proud to show Moon the progress that I had done with the aquarium so far. She was originally in charge of the project, but because she was working on like so many other different building projects, that she entrusted me with this, what was originally her idea. So I was in charge of this project, but I just loved all the feedback that she gave me. The next thing that I was going to be working on was the interior of the gift shop. With the shape of the foundation, I was really kind of conflicted because the process of making a design in another world and replicating that shapes into the Tempusland world was kind of time consuming, and there was a part of me that just wanted to say, screw it, we'll just keep on figuring it out as we go, and we don't need to be too thoughtful and careful about this. And once I created the shape, while I was working on the shape, it was the idea and the visions became a little bit more clear the more that I just played with it. That's when I wanted to make decisions like adding a second floor or adding that little gazebo looking area where there was the aquarium where you can get the fish, the surfboards, and a bunch of other things. So all of that was just pretty much made as I was just going along with it. After I worked on the gift shop, then I continued working on the bathrooms, which was pretty much a design that I copied off of another building project that I worked on. My favorite part about the entrance is the army of aquatic animals that you see once you come into the entrance. I think that really sets the atmosphere for what you come to see next, which is the rest of the aquarium. So once you get past the lobby, you kind of get into the main area of the aquarium, which you can see all these bunch of entrances to all of these different exhibits. It kind of reminds me of a mall, or you can even see it like a two-floor design of some museums. So I was working on that colossal part of the area, but the hallways that connected the lobby and that other area weren't built yet. I just wanted to focus on making the giant glass tank with that giant underwater kingdom, castle, whatever you want to call it or see it as. And I also wanted to make sure that the entrances to the majority of the exhibits in the aquarium were exposed. But just like the entrance, I went into my design world and created the blueprint for that main area, and that pretty much took most of the time, I would say, compared to actually replicating that onto the server and putting out all the details. That could be a stretch, but it took a lot of time. I also just want to mention that in the original blueprints, there was supposed to be a heading area for axolotls, and I think I was also planning on adding stingray, but that just didn't end up panning out because there was this restriction with space. So the first exhibit that I was working on when I got back onto the Tempusland server was the axolotl exhibit, and I really had fun with it. It was just a really interesting design in my head, because partially to further help me visualize what the axolotl exhibit would look like, I added actual decorations and figured out what kind of like palette and blocks that I wanted to use, and even included the axolotls in that design, but really didn't finish it because I would just continue on with it in the Tempusland server. But once I continued working on that, it was really fun. It was a pretty smooth process for the most part. There weren't too many times where I needed to stop and think about what design I wanted to make next. It was pretty much, I either had clear thoughts beforehand when I was in the process of making the blueprints for it, or I just really improvised and came out with great things. I think that, the brown axolotl exhibit was, I said, my favorite just because of the detail of it. There were some ideas that didn't pan out as much as I thought it would, like with, I think it was the blue axolotl exhibit where there was supposed to be an incline, but just because of how close the ground was to the glass, like I needed to make it a little bit lower than what it was supposed to be. But other things like the tank where the axolotls and the guardians were fighting, I originally didn't think that sounded so bad in my head when I first thought of it, but the idea that you're putting the axolotls in possible harm, although mind you these are fictional axolotls, but I think it's still, it isn't received badly, that people just know that this is just a feature in Minecraft. The second exhibit that I was working on is the underwater cave exploration area, which was a very lucky idea that I had, and I say that it's lucky because that the area that I was continuing to build onto included a trench where you could swim down and see this beautiful cave area, and I thought to myself, this is definitely something that I want to include as a part of the aquarium. I don't know if Altare ever talked about scuba diving before, but just the whole idea just really sounded really fun to me, and when I shared the idea on the Discord server, people thought it was really cool, so I went along and added it. I also thought it was a good idea because occasionally glow squid would naturally spawn in the cave, but I thought that there was always a chance that once a visitor goes underneath, that in that cave area, that they wouldn't get the chance to see the glow squid. So instead, I added another exhibit of where I held like the glow squid, and it was a really simple half donut design that didn't take too much time really, which was good later on because sorry, I'm going off on a tangent again, but there was a time when I wanted to teach Moon how to use the /fill command, and I ended up not using the correct parameters, or maybe there was a glitch or something. I like to think that it was a glitch, but I accidentally cut part of the axolotl and the whole glow squid tank, but it wasn't anything too major. For I was just laughing it off with Moon, and I was in a VC with a friend of mine. We were just laughing. Sometimes that's just what you gotta do when you make mistakes. You just gotta laugh it off. Also, because I wanted to cover every single mob that had an AI, I also included the squid, even though I just really don't give it too much care or attention. But I also wanted to make sure that it aligns with the research that I did. So I tried to make it more realistic, like the habitat that it was living in, based off of just like real life photos of squid tanks and aquariums. And then I was working on the second floor of the right hand side of the aquarium, and I started off with just creating that staircase where the axolotl exhibit ended off. And then I created a green anaconda exhibit, which was a pretty fun challenge, I want to say, because there's no biome in Minecraft that is that close to the ones that I was seeing in pictures of the kind of like swampy areas that green anacondas live in. So I just took the liberty of trying to create a design for, like, as best as I could, the best like kind of like biome that a green anaconda would be living in. And just like with the brown or I think the light blue axolotl exhibit, I just wanted to make the viewing point like at an incline, so it isn't just like every single exhibit that you go to you just look straight and you see the animal. The green anaconda that I made was kind of blocky and derpy, and that's just the sort of thing that you gotta deal with when you're working with a real life build like an aquarium in Minecraft. It's just that there's gonna be, whether it's decorations or mobs, there's just restrictions. And so, like, before you even begin to work with animals that don't just naturally exist in Minecraft, where you would have to get a mod or something, that's something that you need to consider when you're working with a build like this. I also built an Arctic exhibit where I have polar bears, and one of them is named Young Savage. And I think it's one of the funniest times during my time when I was constructing the aquarium. So there was a little hole that I accidentally made because I play Minecraft using a trackpad. Why? I don't know. But I accidentally clicked left, which is my button to break the block, instead of like pacing right. And I also placed a polar bear, an adult polar bear, inside that one block hole. And there were 2 other polar bears that spawned there. One was an adult polar bear, and the other one was a cub. And I thought, the adult polar bear that I just spawned in that one block hole would just naturally get out, but it had no time to, because this little savage polar bear went into that one block hole and pushed that adult polar bear further into the wall, making it suffocate and die. And that that young savage, as I named it, just had no mercy, didn't blink an eye afterwards. Literally. I also included a mini exhibit for penguins. It wasn't as big as I wanted it to be, but they really just came out good. I found it a nice design. I think it was Reddit or on YouTube of the penguins, and I wanted to make that exhibit for a while, and I thought, what is some dumb shiz that I can add on to it? And so I just gave the adult penguin laser eyes. And because a lot of the exhibits on the left branch of the aquarium led to different hallways, that's when I started creating the hallways for the left branch of the aquarium, which included cafetiere. And I remember watching a stream where Altare was talking about how he enjoyed the British cafes in his stream when he was talking about his trip from London. So I did more research on what cafes in Britain and London kind of looked like, and they're very beautiful. I also did some research on some British pastries, and they got really interesting names like Victoria sponge cake, Chelsea buns, Shrewsbury cakes. They looked really appetizing. But I really wanted to make it more related to Altair. Aside from him just mentioning that he liked the British cafe, I was thinking, okay, what kind of other pastries does Altair like? And I consulted the Alt Venture Tavern and asked them what kind of desserts does he like, and they said he likes ice cream cake, red velvet cake. He likes ice cream. I think his one flavor that he likes is chocolate ice cream. He likes Pop-Tarts. The man loves his Pop-Tarts, so I added cookies and cream, brown sugar, and blue raspberry. I also just added traditional drinks that you would find at a cafe, such as a black latte, cappuccino, Americano, espresso, Irish, macchiato. I also wanted to add some special themed drinks, which included a Altachino, which is pretty much like a cappuccino, and it's got extra copium just in case you experience a Zen loss. And that was just a reference to how Altair lost everything when he died in his Minecraft world. I also included a Ray Train espresso and 100% pure copium. If you keep heading down that hallway, there's two hallways that you can continue down towards. One that is the exit of the axolotl exhibit, which has in the midway a snack shop, quote unquote snack shop. And I think the shop was named Sharkbite or something. And I added shelves and stuff like that, but I didn't have the energy. I get lazy sometimes. It's one of my vices. I added shelves, but I didn't add any candy, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I can just turn this whole shop into a joke. And so I just added a sign that says, I ate all of the snacks. And then we're out of stock of everything. If you went down another branch,
you would continue on to the Great Elysian River, which pretty much just includes salmon and cod. And going down that hallway would lead to the subtropics area. So on the left side, on the bottom floor, aside from the ones that I've already mentioned, there's that Guardian Temple exhibit, and then on top of that are the tropics and the subtropics. So let's start with the Guardian exhibit. So it just basically replicated an ocean monument. I added levers that would summon guardians, as well with an elder guardian. It was really a risk working with the elder guardians because I knew that they would give their mining fatigue effect, and I really didn't add a countermeasure to that until later. But because it doesn't affect you when you're in creative mode, and I was originally under the assumption that because they're not in their like natural ocean monuments, that it somehow had a different property that it just wouldn't naturally give you that effect. But I really liked how it came out. It doesn't exactly look like an ocean monument. I just needed to fit it to like the certain size that I gave it. And above the ocean monument exhibit was the subtropics and the tropics area. Starting off with the tropics, I wanted to give the entrance a more darker feel because looking back at my notes on my aquarium videos that I saw, that they played a lot with lighting, and it's like you don't need to have really any lights in the room except for what's inside of the tanks themselves. And I had a pufferfish tank, and I also wanted to add more realism, so that included like adding more crowded rock structures that were almost really up in your face, and it took more room than usual with the kind of like terraforming that I add to the exhibits. But I kind of compensated with that by adding more pufferfish, and I really just like, in terms of realism, how that came all into fruition. And then next to that is the turtles exhibit, which didn't need that much decorating, really. They're pretty living in pretty simple decorated areas, just like these kind of like a small patch of grassland, and then there's like a little shore and a little an area for water. And I initially added 2 turtles, and then I added a turtle egg, and I didn't know that the turtle eggs would hatch, but they did. So I think I had 2, but now there's 5 or so. And I originally didn't have the subtropics area planned because I wanted to make the tropics area as large as possible. There were a lot of different subtasks involved with making the tropics area. There's like this giant mountain of sand and stone,
and there are various alternative designs that I came up for it, but it's just too hard for me to really describe what those designs are. But essentially, there would have been like more. It would have been more of an open space than it would have originally been like, rather than just having like a large majority of it just being taken up. I also added some tropical fish and did my best to try to look up what their real life counterparts would be, such as with clownfish and nasotang. And there was a bug with the tropical fish, which is just a bug in Minecraft that has been persisting for a really long time and has never been given that much notice, I want to say, by the game devs, which is that the clownfish will move around a little bit once you start spawning them, but after a while, they just stop moving. Their AI just becomes non responsive, and you can do whatever you want to try to make it animate again. I tried punching it around. I added dolphin sinking because they're really the opposite of tropical fish in that they really just zoom everywhere. So yeah, the tropical fish just would not budge. But talking about the dolphins now, another thing that I learned about the dolphins is that they need to occasionally come up for air. I think that's true to their account, real life counterpart too.
The subtropics area was created because I just had this extra space left over while making the tropics area. And so I created a shark tank, a great white shark tank. But what I just love about which is not really possible in real life. I believe that there was one aquarium that had a great white shark, but they're just so hard to manage because they're biologically just not fit to living in a tank. And it's really dangerous to really try to capture one from a wild and bring it to an aquarium. There's just a lot of troubles with logistics. They're nomadic creatures, they really need to keep moving, and they get depressed in captivity. They are also known to headbutt glass tanks. And then across from the shark tank is the ghost crab exhibit, which ghost crabs are just these little orangish crabs that they kind of like live on, I think, beaches or so, and they make little balls of sand when they're scavenging for food, and they also make their homes in burrows. There's also 3 other builds that I haven't mentioned yet, one of being the Hollywood movie theater. Now, I really thought that the idea of a HOLOSTARS Walk of Fame was pretty interesting, or you can even apply the kind of concept to HoloLive Girls too. There was also a concession stand with a lectern that had a book for a menu of all of the snacks and drinks in the theater. And a lot of ideas were just pretty much jokes. Made them seem really expensive, even though they weren't really. I just didn't specify the type of currency. Another idea that I really liked that I came up with was the idea of making Altare slime and magmite shaped icy lids. It's in those kind of moments where I sort of wish that I had the artistic abilities to capture what was on my mind onto paper. But I hope that any artist who goes to the amusement park or watches this video or the tour guide video that they get inspired to make that icy cup. The actual theater itself was really simple to make because it's just a bunch of seats all aligned in a row, and then you're essentially making a box and a giant screen. To the right of the movie theater is the Altare Culture Club, which was built by Moon. And when you enter the restaurant, you go through a glass tunnel, which there's also seating in that glass tunnel. And there's also the main area, which was partly inspired by a restaurant in the Maldives, which had a 180 glass window which peered into I think an ocean or like a sea or something like that. And the menu consisted of a lot of references to Altare streams, such as how he wanted to eat a penguin, so he included penguin steak. He also mentioned how he wanted to eat sushi, but authentic sushi from Japan. So I added that into the menu. He also played games where he was fishing and there were all of these fictional fish. So I made sashimi versions of them and added them to the menu. There were other seafood menu items such as the seafood tower or like a lobster linguine. And many of these restaurant menu items were contributed by the Alt Ventures Tavern. Finally, there's the Dolphin Tank, which is just to the right of the Altare Club, which was a little bit different from my vision, but it still made for a nice build where there's a big dolphin tank where you can swim with fish and the dolphins, and it just has this nice open roof. I was hoping for something a little bit more of like the dolphin show that you would see in SeaWorld or in the Shed Aquarium. So it's pretty interesting. There's this builder who worked on the dolphin tank, and there was also Moon who worked on the Altare Club. And I must admit that I was getting very worried about when this project would be done and how much time we actually had left before the deadline. And so what I did was pretty much reach out to the people in the Tempusland thread on the Discord server, and I basically asked them, gave them a document just detailing the things that I needed to get done, and just basically gave them like their own creative liberty, along with a couple of just parameters for space. This not only included builds, but also things like a species label, which the information books of the animals that were just next to the exhibits. So like you can see the facts about the pufferfish in a lectern, in a book in a lectern. It also includes the merchandise that was added on the top floor, along with some of the clothing down in the first floor of the gift shop. Even some builders, a part of the Aquarium team, decided to make more photo ops and a mini restaurant that we call the Riz Shack. So I'm highly appreciative of everyone who helped me out finish the aquarium project. Overall, it really made for a really good aquarium, much better than what I think either Moon and I could have ever anticipated since the beginning. It's one of the largest indoor builds on the map, along with one of the only builds underwater. There's a lot of memories that come with this aquarium project, along with other builds that are on Tempusland. This was a really exciting project because this is the first time that I've ever made a map for the public. For the most part, whenever I work on large scale builds like this, it's usually just for a couple of friends. So being able to work with other talented builders, really creative builders, is really a pleasure. And I think it was 1 to 2 weeks before the deadline of the project, the third revision, mind you, the deadline kept changing, so that's why I was really uncertain of how much time I really had. But I was thinking about, okay, if the Guild Tempest members really do come onto the Minecraft server, then they're gonna have a nice tour of all of the builds, but where are they gonna end off? How are they going to finish off the stream? And that's when I recommended that we'd have a fireworks show, and a lot of people loved the idea, but it was gonna be very painstakingly difficult. Not by concept wise, not trying to figure it out, but really putting it in execution. Because I've built fireworks shows before, but they require a lot of command blocks. And I wanted to make sure that this show was about like 5 minutes or so long. And it was there were different phases that were involved with making this machine. The first was just creating all of the different commands of the fireworks, and each individual firework has its own command, and it's going to be like one firework per command. So you could have like 80 or 100 command blocks all a part of just one machine. At least that's as far as my knowledge with command blocks, that's how I sort of like designed it. And along with creating all of the commands for it, I also had to note, okay, what are the exact coordinates? Where exactly are these fireworks going to shoot out of? And so there's this area that's in front of the top of the world ship next to the lore library. It was made for a really nice view of the surrounding areas and all of that. It was just made for a really nice place to hold a fireworks show. It was either that or further to like the left of the Coliseum, on Vesper's fishing area. And I wanted to choose the area that kind of like looked, in my opinion, more visually appealing, but it also had the defect of being really laggy. Just for the fact that there's already a tons of builds, and I'm not putting blame here, but the planetarium kind of like added a little bit of lag, and so I didn't want to like kind of amplify that by having this machine that would be placed underground. So I keep working on the machine, and it takes hours upon hours. I'm like here at 4 in the morning working on this machine, and I have doubts that it would really work because I mentioned before the problem with the lag, and the fact that I was already lagging while just being around the machine. It made me kind of curious because, well, I think that, and I could be wrong about this, but command blocks themselves just take up like kind of memory. But also, even though I really just don't want to rule this out as negligible, but they also have a little animation on the blocks themselves where they're sort of twinkling on the sort of like dials that they have. And so I think that also contributed to why there was a lot of lag. And I even sent a picture just to show the progress to the Discord server, like how many commands there were. Like, if I were to guess, there were just like a couple dozen onto each layer, and it all just like stacked on top of each other like a cake. So I did finish it. I kept it a little bit shorter than I originally intended to. It was still multi-layered, but not as long as it was originally supposed to be. So I captured the entire structure because it was on a different part of the land, just so that I would have more room, more space. So I captured that entire machine with a structure block. And if you're not familiar with what a structure block is, essentially you have one corner block and another one, and the space in between that all of that area is going to can be captured and saved. And then when you move to another area, you can switch the structure block to a mode of loading, and so you can load that structure in there. So I do that, and yeah, it was the fireworks were able to launch. There were a couple of bugs here and there, but the biggest concern was that there was a really low frame rate when this show played, and I showed the the video to the Tempusland thread, and someone just said that, why is it really laggy? And I was trying to fix the lag problem, but I just really couldn't. I just really didn't know how. I tried to keep it all into one layer, but even then, there was just so many problems. And there's also, when we were coming down to the end, we were making various tests with the export, because how the world is on that exported file is different from how it is on the server. Why? I'm not entirely sure, but that's what we spent a couple of days on. Just what Moon and a couple of other people have been doing to ensure that when it comes and gets released to the public, that there wouldn't be any sort of errors like that. But once we were finally done with all of the export tests, we did release it to the public. I ended up not having that fireworks show, and I was kind of disappointed. But Moon emphasized that it's more about that I made the best attempt that I could, and even though that the idea didn't really truly come into fruition, that I should still be proud of my efforts. And I'm really proud of Moon and her efforts and contributions, as well with every other builder, every other gatherer, everybody who contributed and made Tempusland possible. We really worked like hell, but we made so many memories on that server. It was truly a great project, one of the greatest projects that I've ever been a part of. And that's why when we finally released that file out to the public, that downloadable world, which will also be included down in the description below, it really felt like we made something great, and we truly did, because like I said in the beginning, this could be the first ever HOLOSTARS fan dedicated project server. This could be, or one of the possibly only amusement parks that ever get made. It's really interesting because the fans of Takanashi Kiara, the team KFP over there was also like that small group of people who made a HoloLive English amusement park. So I just find it interesting how we were able to do that for a HOLOSTARS English. And if things continue as I hope that they will, that this server is the genesis of the sub-community of Minecraft projects that are part of the general Tempest project community. And we also have a hashtag TempuraMCBuilds, where if you've created your own Tempest related Minecraft projects, then you could share pictures of that or whatnot with that hashtag. I've been wanting to continue to see the growth of this community, and I think that still starts with Tempusland. And so I've done tours in Discord VC servers in that Guildhall Discord, along with making a tour guide video on my Zen channel, which I think I'll also include in the description below. And I think that I might be continuing with my own Minecraft projects if I have the right time, the right resources in the future. I mentioned before that I went to a resort called Atlantis when I was younger, and the architecture there kind of reminded me of Elysium now. And so I thought, okay, maybe it would be really cool if I could form a band together of builders and we create this Elysium water park resort. There were people in the Tempusland team who thought of creating the world tree and, just the city of Elysium. That's a big idea, and it's gonna take really skilled builders. I believe in the skill of Tempusland builders, but I also acknowledge that it's really hard to make mega structures in Minecraft. It's far from an easy job done. And there are people in the Hololive community who are insanely skilled builders on the Hollow Contract Minecraft server. And I don't know if they would ever be interested in joining a project like that and helping out with the HOLOSTARS community. And who knows? Maybe we might branch out and reach out to Minecraft builders who might not necessarily be fans of HOLOSTARS English, but would still be willing to help out with these fan projects. There's definitely been times, I want to say, in the VTuber sphere in general, with fan projects where they either reach out to some organization, some other community, or some individual to help out with these fan projects. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where the future of fan projects really go in, I want to say, the VTuber sphere in general, and also specifically including the HOLOSTARS community, because we really have talented artists, writers, people with insane resources and networks where we can really test to see how far we can actually go with these kind of things just for the fun of it. But yeah, I think that's all from me today. There's the downloadable map, as I said, along with a bunch of other goodies down in the description down below. And if you haven't checked out my other videos yet, go check them out. I've talked about HOLOSTARS and HOLOLIVE and VTubers on my last episode, The Poster Boy of Degeneracy, along with my experiences as a fan in this community. So go check it out if you're interested. I'm your friendly neighborhood podcaster Zen, signing out.